Hi, welcome to this edition of Deep Focus. I have with me today filmmaker Aditya Vikram Sengupta. Aditya's third feature film, titled Once Upon a Time in Calcutta, will premiere on the 7th of September at the Venice Film Festival. This marks a homecoming of sorts for Aditya, whose debut feature film, Labor of Love, also opened at Venice. And Aditya says that it also marked his first trip outside of the country. Once Upon a Time in Calcutta will compete in the Horizonte or the Horizon segment of the film festival. It's a wonderful film on a city which is in the state of decay, as well as it is underlined with a sense of perpetuity which drives so many of the great cities the world over. Aditya captures the sights and sounds of the city, the mosquitoes, the fog, the mosquito fog, which is used to drive them away, the dinosaur statue outside the science center, the flyovers, to create a very surreal atmosphere. Added on that are the songs and poetry of Tagore, the original versions as well as the remixes. Aditya also makes use of a very distinctive use of the spatial element, particularly the staircases and the elevators. You find characters going up and down constantly, a flight of stairs or an elevator. And then there is this fabulous old decrepit theater and its stage, which is also a movable element, where again the performers go up and down. How does it all add up to what he's trying to say in the film? You please watch out for the film rather than have me tell more about it. What I would stress on is the fact that it has some remarkable production design handled by Jonaki Bhattacharya, and there is the superlative camera work by Gokhan Tiryaki, who is was being the director of photography, the DOP for the iconic Turkish filmmaker Nuri Çelan. So how does Gokhan's vision, an eye which is trained to the sprawling Turkish landscape, how did it fit in to capture the bustle and hustle and the rush of Calcutta? I put this question across to Aditya, and as he goes into the details of what went into the making of Once Upon a Time in Calcutta, in the fitness of things, he begins by talking about his hometown, the place where he was born and where he grew up in, and how it is the setting, it has been the setting till date of all the three of his films. So over to Aditya. Coming to Kolkata, I mean, all the three films are based out of Kolkata. It's your own fondness for the city which drives that, the reason why you focus on. In fact, many would say that it's like, a trilogy now of Kolkata movies that you have on your plate.
No, but I think the second film was more
memory and
yeah.
more surreal space that way.
Yeah. Of course, it was about the city and Bengalis at a certain point of time, but it wasn't contemporary and now in that sense. Whereas this film is contemporary and it's the present time.
Yeah.
And it's really, so I think it's always about Kolkata until now, because it's probably been, my comfort zone in a way. And this is my home, this is where I've been born and bred. And so of course the amount that I've absorbed and the amount, what I know about my home will obviously be a lot more than, any other place. So I think it just comes from this, like a natural instinct to kind of express. And, we're always more free expressing at home, than outside. And so it's also like a mixture of feelings when it comes, because at home you feel a sense of comfort. There are smells that comfort you. There are sounds that comfort you. There's food that comforts you. But at the same time, there's a bunch of things that we cannot, we wish, changed, or we cannot put up with. And so it's always a mixture of feelings. So, so then in that sense, it's a very interesting and detailed and, complicated relationship that anyone would have with their homes and hometowns. And
And it's never occurred to you to make any other city home?
Not true. I feel very at home in Bombay.
Okay.
And I'm, I feel very comfortable staying in Bombay because there's a sense of warmth in the people. There's a sense of, strong connection within humans. So, which is why it's, I really like staying in Bombay, but the sense of space gets to me. It's too cramped up, and it's very claustrophobic that way, the physical space. And just the lack of public spaces and, just the lack of being able to go out on the streets and do things is something that gets to me from time to time.
Coming to the current film, I was kind of taken in with some of the the images which strike you very strongly, and some spaces one sees regularly. One thing is the use of stairs and elevators. Human beings are climbing up or coming down, and the theater. The childhood memory of the stage moving up, and how you close the film also with it, and somehow the geometrical spaces behind these stairs and elevators. I was very intrigued by it and wanted to know a bit more about the use of that kind of a spatial element in the film.
So see, this film has been in development for a very long time, and everything that you see in the film are things that I have experienced, firsthand. So, so for example, the theater that you see, I have been to this theater for years.
Okay.
And there used to be a person, Amar Ghosh, who used to live there, who's the owner of the theater, whose son now kind of stays there. But he used to live there alone, and he was really crazy about that theater because, it was built by him. And so in the 70s, and it was, one of a kind in Asia. And then what happened is that with the coming of cinema, people, stopped going to the theater, and that is when they introduced cabaret. And there was a very famous cabaret dancer called Miss Shefali, who used to dance in these theaters. So basically, these theaters became about
the cabarets
and the cabaret dancers, and which is
how interesting.
Which is the character of Ella's mother. And so Amar Ghosh, who lived in the theater, he actually lived like that. I mean, like how we show Boo Boo, And I remember going and visiting him once, and he was in that top room, all alone. In that entire theater, he was all alone. And there was one cat, and there was food kept next to him, which has gotten stale, for I think over 2-3 days. And it was really surreal for me to just, to have gone and spoken to him, And he constantly thought that people would poison him, people would, give him, poisonous food, and so he stopped eating outside, and so finally he ended up, he died. But so the theater is still lying there. The government cannot do anything to it because, it's a disputed property. There are lots of disputes. They have an outstanding of, I think, 2.5 crores to the municipality.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's there. Then the Ponzi scheme that you see, that's one of the biggest Ponzi schemes that have happened in the history of Bengal, which got exposed in 2000, I think, 13.
Okay.
There was, there was a Ponzi scheme called Sharada,
Okay.
and there were hundreds and thousands and millions of people who lost money, and all these agents, they fled, and there were people who committed suicide, and it was a royal mess. And so everything that you see in the film are based on real characters, real stories, and real spaces. And these are spaces where I have gone extensively, and I've kind of spent time, and I've seen. And and when it comes to the representation of it, since I have a visual background anyway, I come from a graphic design background, and I paint. So I have a tendency of framing and kind of showing things in a particular manner, which comes very spontaneously to me. But at the same time, I kind of adapted to suit the narrative of the film. So, I mean, you would see similarities in Jonaki or Asha Jawan Majhe, but different,
Yeah. Because I was also struck that, with Asha, completely wordless to, not too dialogue heavy, Jonaki to this film would be the most, for the lack of a better word, the most wordy film from you in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So cinema for you is more driven by the sights and sounds. What you're talking about, the visuality, something which comes from your graphic design background.
No, I mean, that's a part of it. And everything is a part of it because, and even dialogue is an important part of cinema. But it entirely depends on the kind of film that we are trying to make, the kind of story that we are trying to tell, and, kind of scenes that we are trying to depict. And so, sometimes things become more powerful if there are no spoken words. Sometimes things become powerful and we get closer to the human character when they do express and they talk, And this is such a realistic film about Calcutta that, it's impossible for me to eliminate that from, the body of the film.
The dinosaur, the flyover, and the mosquitoes and the mosquito fog. What was any of it the springing point, so to speak, which made you start off on the film? Because I think throughout these elements keep flowing throughout the film.
Right. So the mosquito bit was a lot more earlier.
Okay.
But, because we kind of chopped the film, we had to, a lot of it is out.
Okay.
So there were lots of scenes with various forms of mosquito repellents.
Okay.
Yeah, because, it's a big problem here. It's a big problem. And, but the inception of the film happened with the dinosaur.
Okay.
And it's a statue that was in front of a science park called Science City.
Okay.
And, the biggest flyover in the city was being built. And while it was being made, when it kind of reached the dinosaur, you'll find a picture of that on our Instagram.
Okay.
The one that I had clicked. And then, so I had clicked that picture, and it was a very interesting image for me. And, it kind of made me think about a lot of things, especially relevance and how things just become irrelevant in no time. And also it went deeper into mindsets of people in Calcutta, because there are very specific mindsets that exist and coexist. So if you see the film, there's Boo, the theater owner. The dinosaur scene comes right after him. So he's almost like an extinct character, you know. He cannot survive in this ecosystem anymore. He has to go. So similarly, it's, you know, it's about people, it's about things, it's about science, technology, you know, it's all of it. So nothing can remain, you know, one has to move on. I mean, after a few years, even this flyover will become, you know, redundant, and it has to be broken down. Maybe something else will come up. For example, you remember the flyover that you see with the flag, that broken.
Okay. Yeah.
When Raja is in the terrace.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So that is the flyover that had collapsed earlier.
Okay. I see.
Which is why it's in that state. And now that flyover is not there. They had to take the entire
thing away. Okay. But you know, this dinosaur statue, I mean, you recreated the set. Where was this done? You know, or, you know, kind of.
Yeah. So the production design was done by Jonaki.
Yeah.
And so the dinosaur statue was recreated, and it was made to stand. And it was made to stand, and we kind of, you know, we got hold of this one construction site where we went and put it up. And yeah, it was quite exciting.
The shoot itself, shot by Chelan's cinematographer. What made you opt for him? And how is it shooting with someone who is from a different nationality, who would be kind of, you know, more used to a different landscape, because Turkey and Kolkata would be worlds which are very different visually. So how was it for him to tune into Calcutta and for you to tune into his sensibility?
So I think they took a little time to tune in, because this was pretty much the first time that they stepped out of Europe.
Okay.
And coming and landing up in a place like Calcutta is not the easiest thing to kind of deal with. So initially they were really struggling a little with the weather and the heat and the pollution and everything. But then they got used to it. It was a little challenging at first, because the English is not really good. But I think after a couple of days, we just found our way to communicate with each other. But the experience of working with him was absolutely amazing. And I've never worked with anyone who's as good and efficient, and he was really, really good. And I really don't think the film would have been what it is. I mean, of course, it goes for everyone, but also him.
But tell me, what does he bring to the plate that another cinematographer wouldn't? You know, how do you think that Once Upon a Time in Kolkata has Calcutta, not Kolkata, has benefited from his presence as a cinematographer?
So
is it that outsider's vision also which matters somewhere in a film which is very, very intimately Calcutta, coming from the director whose home is Calcutta? Do you think that somewhere that outsider's vision somewhere creates that balance which works in the film's favor? I mean, I'm just speculating.
Yeah, of course. There are lots of things that he brought on the table, and the first being that he was a very character-driven cinematographer, and he always tried to get into the soul of the scene.
Okay.
And so we had long discussions about what the scene is about, what the character is thinking, is that, etc. And then we would brainstorm and come up with the right angle and the lens and how we want to shoot it, the kind of lighting that we want to use. And oftentimes he had very different perspectives. you know, he would say, no, why do you want to show this? There's no point. It's okay not to show this. You know, I get it. I mean, this much is enough. So, you know, just stuff like that. It was a very, very collaborative process, and it went into long discussions. There were days when we shot one scene for an entire day and then we canned it because, you know, it just didn't work, and we were okay with it. And there were days when we shot 8-10 scenes also, you know.
Okay.
So, and yeah, and he's very, very patient. He's truly a director's DOP, and he never got tired. So we went up to 40-50 takes for a lot of scenes, which were long scenes. For example, the astrology scene.
Okay.
So we shot all night till 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And the scene was double the length that you see in the film.
Okay.
So just to keep performing that. So it looks like it's an impromptu scene.
Okay. But it took...
No, but all the scenes look like, you know, they're just kind of improvising, but they have been very meticulously workshopped and detailed and performed, you know. So none of it is really improv in that sense.
Okay.
A lot of it is, but most of what you see that seems like improv isn't improv.
Okay. Which is a reason why it took so long for the film. I mean, you said that it kind of took much longer than any of your films. I mean, any of the other two films.
Yeah, I mean, so Jonaki also took a long time to edit, and I absolutely love editing because, you know, it's the place where I rediscover the film, and I just go on and on and on and on with the edit. And but with this film, the fabric of the film is such, it was so broad, you know. I mean, the first cut that we had was 3 hours 10 minutes.
Okay.
Like, for example, the restaurant scene right now is a 2.5 minute scene, right? But my original scene was a 7-minute scene, which is still there. And I wanted the film to be that way, where, you know, two people are just going on talking and it's just random banter, and, you know, but there's essential information hidden and layered and all of that. But, you know, but then eventually it wasn't working for the kind of rhythm and the pace that you wanted.
Okay. You know, I have been to Kolkata only once, and that too for, I think, over a weekend. And much as I loved what I saw, I still have to really experience it, and perhaps experience it, as everyone says, more for the food than for anything else. But one thing which one keeps hearing, you know, both from my Bengali and non-Bengali friends who've been closely associated with the city, is this whole thing about decay, that the city is decaying, that the city is kind of dying. And when I was seeing your film somewhere, that whole thing was playing at the back of my mind, and I just felt that your film somehow captures that, and yet it also underlines, you know, this perpetuity, which the city is, you know, carrying within itself. Is that your own personal take on, you know, this whole thing about Kolkata is dying, you know?
No, but I think this is true for every city in the world.
Okay.
You know, a part of every city, a part of every person is always dying. And we're constantly negotiating and trying to hold on to it or trying to let it go, you know?
Okay.
And such is life, you know, and such is, and it's not something that is only about Kolkata. So if you take Kolkata, Rome, Bombay, Delhi, any place, there is a part of the city that is dying. There are kind of people who are holding on to that, who cannot move on. And then there is a kind of people who are in flux, and there's a kind of people who are always looking forward and moving on and on. So the new city, the new towns like Gurgaon, Noida, in Calcutta, the equivalent is, you know, New Town and Rajarhat and the new areas in Navi Mumbai, and so it's always expanding. And so I think it's a phenomenon with it's just it happens with everything in the world also. I mean, mountains rolled, and the tectonic plates shift, cities get submerged in water, new cities come up. It's always like that.
And it's happening in relationships as well. There is a constant negotiation, renegotiation in the film's tapestry when it comes to the players, and the relationships that they are in.
Yeah.
Also, I was kind of noticing the objects, the refrigerator which keeps troubling. I don't know whether I'm reading too much into it, but
no, you're not. They're all there for a purpose. They were just not there,
Yeah. Tagore, the use of his music, and you very specifically, for people who are not aware of kind of you're underlying where it is a remix and where is the original version. Please tell me more about that.
So after the rights were removed from Tagore's material, people went ballistic. It was as if they were waiting for that to happen, So, and he is used and overused and abused, and he's like the only thing that we have, and as if we don't need anything else. No one needs to write anything else. No one need to create anything else, because we have Tagore and we have Ray and we have, whoever.
Yeah.
So, so bas ho gaya abhi. We don't need to do anything. He's the best. Don't ever dare say anything about him. And and after kind of the rights, went. I mean, there were no rights required anymore. I think after 100 years, just the amount of material, copyright, and adaptations, mixes, all of this that was made, it was absolutely. I mean, and I feel that the city is overburdened with this and other figures equivalent to Tagore, and so much so that it's enough to make flyovers fall and collapse.
So you were saying, talking about how the burden and the flyovers collapsing somewhere, all tied up.
Yeah, it's just that, and Kolkata's obsessed with statues.
Okay.
And they just keep putting on the same statues again. And I think every city is obsessed with some statue or the other.
Yeah, you're telling us we are making such, big ones and spending crores on making statues, where those crores could have been spent much better in other efforts, perhaps.
Yeah.
I was told that you do a lot of storyboarding. Is it true or not?
Yeah. I do a lot of sketching and storyboarding.
Okay. This is a very Ray inheritance, I think, right? Because he used to do it, and the only person other than you who's told me that, he does storyboarding is Dibakar Banerjee.
Okay.
Is this again some kind of a legacy that you guys have inherited from Satyajit Ray?
Oh no, it's just I think it's. I mean, I've always.
Or is it the advertising background again? I mean, that is the other thing which ties up here. Is that?
No, I don't have an advertising background.
You don't. You have a design background, NID, right?
Yeah. I have a design background.
Okay.
And so sketching and drawing and theater and music is something that I always did since childhood.
Okay.
And I continue to do so.
Okay.
And and I actively I'm working on a record myself, which I plan to do next year in UK. So I write songs. I'm always sketching and doodling and painting. So all this is so that's my painting again.
Okay.
So that one there, yeah. Okay. So I just, it's easier for me to kind of sketch and do things than it comes very naturally to me. It's a very it's very simple and easiest way for me to just put down my thoughts.
Which is itself an art that not many people seem to employ these days. I find quite fascinating. Storyboarding is quite lovely, and an art form in itself which exists independent of the film as well.
Yeah.
Coming to the actors and the shoot itself, how did you choose? Why did you pick the actors you picked up? Did they fit in what you were looking for in your characters?
So we had a very long casting process. We casted for more than 2 years. We auditioned about 50 to 60 theatre groups from in and around Kolkata. And we kind of finalized the actors. And out of which one actor was even my father, who plays the lawyer, the family lawyer.
Oh, okay. That's your father.
Yeah.
The one who tells him to get the servant away.
Yes. Okay. And Srilekha, the lead, she has, since I've been writing, she has always been in my head for that role.
Okay.
And I couldn't imagine anyone else but her for some reason. So even when I met her, I told her that, I'm not approaching anyone else. Let's work on this. Let's see how it goes. And then we'll take a call. And we worked together for 5-6 months. And she's absolutely fantastic. And so is everyone else. And I think the entire team was fantastic. We had a very small team. And Jonaki really put together the film with very little budget. And she took care of production design, costume, makeup. And, my father took care of accounts. My brother was there, assisting him, line producing. So it was like, everyone really kind of worked hard to make this happen.
No, it's absolutely lovely, and says so much. And I think each time you view it, something new emerges from what you are seeing, and a Kolkata that one doesn't normally end up seeing so much, it's I think just as Delhi has become this, Qutub Minar and India Gate kind of representation, Kolkata also is imagined in a certain way on cinema for the viewer to also relate in a certain manner. Whereas this shows a completely almost a surreal kind of side,
yeah, because my representation, for me, a city, of course, there's a physicality to a city, there are monuments, there are old cities, new cities, and architecture and everything. But cities are also people. And different people, and no one, and I really wanted to explore the city and the spaces through people and their mindsets, rather than show spaces in a standalone way. I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to explore the details and the fabric of the city through humans.
Fantastic. So I'm going to wish you all the best with the film, and I hope it does well and kind of goes from success to success after Venice as well. Thanks so much for sparing the time.
Thank you so much.
Very much.